My name is Brodt. I was born in Poland in a small town of Boryslaw, not far from the town of Drohobych. Boryslaw was rather very rich comparison to Saudi Arabia. They have oil, we had oil too, and a smaller quantity though. However, we did our best to try our best and to supply the people of Boryslaw the best opportunity they could have. I was born in a small town, as I said, in Boryslaw. Little town, I was unfortunate. My father died. I was only 8 months old. I didn't know my father. I had a brother and a sister, older. My brother went to the University of Drohobych, traveling by train, and the rest of the way he walked there. But his brother was very smart. He was a very good student. And he went, when the war started in 1939, September 1st, I just finished the 7th grade. I passed the grade with flying colors, the 7th grade. Little did I enjoy that fast thing because I was small. I was an orphan. My mother put me into the orphanage house. There were some people, kids my age, boys and girls, we lived very nicely and pleasant. We went to school, to public school, and our Hebrew classes were done on premises. There was no war between boys and girls. We got on very lively until the war let us have it. The Germans walked in, no time that they had any problem. However, Russia and Germany had an agreement. The agreement was if Russia stays and doesn't interfere with the war, they can have half of Poland known before 1914 as Ukraine. Ukraine was their own country. Mostly they worked in the agricultural area, and coming to town, they sold milk and kept to themselves. One time they came in, when the war started, they went to the German people and asked to give him 24 hours free hand. Frankly speaking, I don't know that the Germans knew what they're talking by free hand. They came in with scythes and sickles and killed close to 150 people on the spot. The government put the stop to it, ordered the Jewish committee to clean up the corpses of the road and go on with their lives. We were pushed into a small area known as ghetto. We had to leave everything behind us and we moved into that ghetto. They didn't care where they're going to sleep, what they're going to eat. You just have to move there. The ghetto was getting smaller and smaller. And finally, the Russians came in. They put speakers on every pole that's possible with propaganda. My sister and brothers, they moved out. And I was only 14 years old with my mother. And I needed a job. I went to the job. The Russians gave me a job to translate the Latin letters to the Russian letters. It was very simple. However, I did a crime. No, I didn't steal anything. The crime consisted that I came 10 minutes late for work. I had to still trial, and my punishment was 10% out of my salary. Well, Jewish mother can handle on 10% less. We managed somehow. This lasted only 2 months, and in 1941, June 22nd, Russia invaded that half of Poland that belonged once to us. They marched through with flying colors, and they took better of us. We had to report to work. The food was cut to a limit. But the people from little town villages came in. They brought some either wheat or potatoes, exchange for you things that they didn't have it. They wanted radios. Radio? What good is radio for them? They didn't have any electricity. But that's the life they led. This lasted quite a long time. And the 2 months passed by. And then one morning, I heard a knock on the door. I open the door, and there were German police, Ukrainian police, and Polish police, and they took my mother and me away. My mother was bedridden. She had to get up, dress, and walk to the railroad station. The railroad station was approximately 3 kilometers from the house, but they didn't care. We had to walk, guarded by the assessment. And mid on the way, they put my mother on a truck, and it's the last time I saw my mother. She went on a truck, and she was driven to the railroad station. Frankly speaking, I don't know that my mother lasted that long by time to get to her. We started to have a segregation. There were railroad cars lined up. You went before a commission, 3 guys, 2 dressed in civilian clothes, and an assessment. Either you went to the left and to the right. The men said, either pointed with your wrist, go to the left. You went to the car station, go to the right, you spared. You got a time to live a little bit longer. I was going to the railroad station, somebody taps me on the shoulder. I turn around and the man asked me, "Wie alt bist du?" in German, not knowing that maybe I don't speak German. However, I understood what he said, so I add a couple years to my age. He sent me back where the working group was there. I was very glad to go to the group. Around 3 o'clock, the trains pulled up. They went to Drohobych, picked up more people, and the rest of us went home, whoever had a home. Tried to see whether any of the families who still alive lived there. However, the rooms was empty. No place where to go. We just wandered the street. We didn't sleep twice in the same bed, knowing what happened to the rest of the family. You thought the neighbors are your friends. They will help you out. The rumor went out to the people who lost a daughter, a son, a brother, a father. He said, there is a place, and if you have any money, we can buy him out. The last penny that they had, people gave it to him, so hoping that he will come back. Not. This was a scheme just to take the money away. As the population was getting smaller, so did our presence and the towns that we live on our possession disappeared too. Finally, there was on the outskirts of Borisov, there was a little town called Mrznica. Mrznica was where the Wehrmacht stood. They had to leave the place, sent to the front or home, I don't know, and we took the place in that camp. We were guarded by the Ukrainian police and Latin people, so nobody was not wire, but a regular stone wall that you couldn't go out. Every morning around 6 o'clock, there was a reveille, and people walked out to work to a different place in town. Around 5 o'clock, they were coming back, and there were some people, young people, who volunteered work in the kitchen for the food, to serve the food when they went back to work. There was 2 divisions, left and right, one for the ladies and one for the men. And in the evening, they used to get together. Sometimes his wife or his sister had enough money to buy some people some food out of town, bring it home, and cook a little bit extra food. So happened I got a job as a runner. I had a pass, go into town, pick up some medicine for the people who need it, or buy some additional food, provided they gave me the money. In the town, there was a Polish family who had a family something like of 12 people. As soon as they found out what's going on, they threw those people out, and all those people got dead. I never slept in the same bed twice in a week. It was going on and on. Finally, we went to town as it was getting smaller, reporting to work. And I was going to work and I was stopped. And that's where you're going. I said, I'm going to town to pick up some rations. Pass. So they gave me a pass. They showed me I was fine to go. Sometimes I walked twice. The distance between the camp and the center of the town was approximately 5 kilometers. Even young, twice a day, 5 kilometers is pretty hard to walk. But I did it for sake of not staying in camp. Then came in on April the 12th or the 13th, a guy told me that my sister was arrested. In the meantime, my sister worked in a hospital with her husband, and they had a little baby. A mother's intuition. She took the baby and left it in front of an orphanage. A Polish lady knew she must be Jewish. He claimed for the baby and gave her the name Adele Bramska. Adele is a common name in Poland, and Bramska is translated into English a gate. So the name there, Adele Bramska. But she was very happy that somebody picked her up. The following day, I went to pick up some ration in a German store, and I asked the man working there, who is the lady who claimed the baby? I was told, had to leave, couldn't get any information, hoping that somebody will bring it forward. I was alone, so I had a Polish lady come from Poland to earn some extra money, and she cleaned my house. But our baby never found the baby. I put up the Polish people who worked for me. They put in a Polish newspaper appealing, who knows of that baby? However, I could not find out. April the 12th, we were surrounded, putting on a railroad car. He was shipped to Plashov. Plashov is not far from Krakow. Plashov is also not far from a salt mine. The salt mine was used for a factory to build airplane parts and ammunition. But it wasn't, we were getting, every time we walked there, was about 8 floors below. If you know the watching, you went right through the bottom. The legend tells us that Queen Jadwiga of Poland dropped the ring in Vistula River. And that ring was found in that salt mine. They put a chapel up, and they prayed this for the Queen Jadwiga. It was very rich and was very famous throughout the world. As we stayed in that camp, everybody went to work. Food, if you had extra food, you could buy it. If not, you depended whatever from the kitchen. Got going to Plashov. I got a job to work in Wieliczka. As I told you, Wieliczka was a salt mine. Once the salt was extracted, they built walls, and people worked there day in, 24 hours a day. One night, they told us we have to go back to camp for September, and it was September very hot. They got close to 120 people per car. You couldn't stand. You could just sit one and one through the entire trip. We arrived in Linz, and people didn't get water. The people in those railroad cars started to holler for water. So one of the German SS men goes to the men and says, "Why don't you give the people some water?" He looked him up, although he outdrank them. He says, "Would you like to join them?" That officer knew who is he talking to. Left, and we were sent on foot 25 kilometers for 3 days without any food to a camp called Ebensee. Ebensee was located in Austria, held the camp supposed to hold approximately 8,000 people. In those 2 weeks, the camp grew to about 20,000 people. You walked at night, you don't know where you're going, whether you step on a human being or on the ground, but you couldn't help. You had to go to the toilet, forget it. You didn't know where you're going. Once in a while maybe once we used to get bread, was a 2-kilo bread, sliced in 8 pieces, you got the bread. Our story told us that if you take a bread and make toast out of it and scrape it off the coal from the bread and eat it, this will help you stop your diarrhea. A friend of mine from the same town, he took the bread and went to the toilet to get the bread to make toast out of it. And another bread, the man in charge of the bread gave his bread, who was taken away from to a fellow prisoner. The fellow prisoner knew that I'm his friend. He said, gave it to him, "You take it." So I took it, and from the front of the barrack, I called his name, and I saw his figure standing in the left-hand corner of the barrack. And I call my name, and I see his statue there. However, he does not answer. I got a little bit annoyed. I went closer, and I saw his belt around his neck. First thing, I called to a fellow man who shared the barrack at the bunk beds, back to back. I said, "Give me a knife." They gave me a knife. I cut him off, and the doctor passed by, saw it happen. He examined, said, "Put him on a bunk bed. He will go to heaven," which I did. And the man from the barracks asked me, "Where did you get the knife?" I didn't answer him. After this thing happened, the thing got worse. Again, there was action. Action was taken in towns, picked up the people from the ghetto, and sent to that forced labor camp. It wasn't easy, but at least you had a place where to stay, had a bed, not a good bed, but you stayed there, and you got coffee in the morning. Oh, pardon me, I said coffee, black water in the morning. You didn't get any bread. This is the way it had to last for the whole day. Around lunchtime, they brought you a bowl of hot water, supposed to be soup there, supposed to be vegetable, but you were glad that you just got the hot water. Everybody was happy. This was going on in day and night. The work there was 24 hours a day. One shift left, the other shift came back. Then we were all summoned again, and we went to a different camp. The guards who guard us, they were guarding us, and when the plane came to bomb, they saw the people were walking. They didn't know whether they were prisoners or army. They bombed, and the guards hid among the prisoners until they flew away. Then came the works in the tunnels. There were 3 tunnels. They were assigned a certain amount to the people to work there, dig the sand, put them on a conveyor belts, take it out of the caves into the open. However, if you have no electricity, the conveyor belts not work. It was dark, so we all sat down, and the head copper passes by, and the copper who's supposed to guard us and see that we do the work said, I came in, they're all sitting down, didn't do any work. Little did he tell them that they couldn't do any work because they didn't have no electricity, as long as he was spared. Each of us got 15 lashes on our back. But you felt just the first 5, the other one, the back was dead, bleeding, but that's where you got him. We got the lights came on, and we continued working. It was going till about 4 o'clock till we got home. There was not properly constructed. The wall wasn't properly constructed. It gave way, and the whole ceiling fell down. There were a lot of people buried, full big mountain of sand. But the man, the supervisor who was a civilian, look, we couldn't find anything. He says, we couldn't look. Did you look? No, we couldn't find anything. Finally, the head copper took a shovel, went over to that pile of sand, started digging. Sure enough, the 3 bodies laying there. See? Well, say, I couldn't see him. They were taken out. Instead of working 12 hours, we took 16 hours by the time we got back to the barracks. We got back to the barracks. The people were still there. They were paying action, and my sister had a feeling that something will happen to her. She took the baby, as I told you, put out into the orphanage, and the baby was safe. They were taken, and they dug a big hole in front of the slaughterhouse. And they marched the plank, and the machine guns were set up, and they just went haywire, shooting. Everybody was there. Think how many people fell to that hole without being killed. This passed by too. My sister was taken away with her husband and killed in those actions to take. I went to visit my time, and she says, take the baby, try to save it. I tried to look for it, I couldn't. Finally came 1945, May the 6th. The men in charge of the bag rally us to go to the reveille place, be accounted for, and we will take you to the tunnels to save you. Not that the American, English, and French come and bomb you. Well, there were interpreters, there were all different kind of people, different countries. And one Frenchman says, point blank, hell no, we won't go to this forest. They're all mine. I'd rather die by the bomb than being killed in the forest. We stayed still. Around 1 o'clock, army jeep came in. In the meantime, we walked in. Once the guard left, we walked out. And we took our law in our own hands. The army tried to interfere, say, leave them alone. Let the law take care of it. We just look in their faces. Where was the law when they did the same thing to us? The American soldiers knew what he stood, what he's up to. He had to leave. Red Cross took over. Appealed to us, do not go to town and eat yourself to death. Wait till we take over, you will get some rations, and little at a time, we will bring you to health. We know Red Cross from before. Promises are cheap. To give food, it's very hard to get. This lasted for a few days. And one day, with a friend of mine, we decided, let's go to town, see how it happens. So we walked to town. Don't forget, we wore striped uniforms. It was Sunday afternoon. A nice German couple walked around and comes over to me. Who are you? You mean, who are you? There's a camp. We didn't know anything about it. You saw 2,000 people walking out of the camp to work, and you said you didn't know anything about it? We didn't know anything about it. It's his word against word. After a long conversation, they felt sorry and then invited us for a lunch, Sunday lunch. We looked at each other. Shall we? I guess the hunger got the best of us. We went there and they served us a nice lunch. We had a nice conversation, although it was very hard to speak to them. They spoke German. Neither of us, neither he or I, spoke German unless we mixed the Jewish words with it, but we got along fine. And finally came time to go home back to camp. So we marched back to camp, and back to the camp I saw American Army kitchen. So both of us walked to the sergeant and asked, can we get a job? So the sergeant said, gee, we haven't got any job, it's just kitchen. There's nothing to do. Unless you want to work as a KP, cleaning the kettles. You will get a room. I took it. I got the room. I got a shower, which I didn't have in 4 years. I got a clean bed, and I stayed with him, and I asked him, send me another guy. Sure enough, send another guy, and we both got a job in the Army. We traveled where the Army went. They took us along. Very nice. And that sergeant, he fell about 7 foot up and dropped on a concrete floor and broke his ankle. He was back to the States, and he gave me his address, and he said, write me your address, and I will try to sponsor you. So I took the address. I said, well, talk is cheap. Around 49, I get a letter from, send me your address, and we will try to sponsor you. He did. So he sponsored me. He picked me up. We lived not far in the Bronx. I was invited there to go for lunch and come to dinner. And then finally I said, I want to pay. I got a job. I came on Thursday. On Monday went downtown to work as a shipping clerk. I worked there, and every day I came home. And finally I said, one thing, either you find me a room with meals, or I pay you for the meals that I earned the money. He said, give me another week or another 2 weeks. He did find a place. The family took people like myself, fed them, and you paid for the room, and you had breakfast, and you had a sandwich for the lunch, and dinner when you come back. To pay my bills, everything was okay, but I kept in touch with him. This didn't last too long. Finally, a friend came in. Oh, and we talked about the day as we went to New York. There was a big parade. And we talked with each other and said, look how nice the people are. They gave us a big parade. Soldiers working, school teacher, music. On the night, I said, are you kidding? It was St. Patrick's Day. Well, it was St. Patrick's Day, and I came to the States on St. Patrick's Day.
So that was your welcome to the United States, was St. Patrick's Day. Did you want to show them the map? Get out of the way. So this is,
I don't know, the ice might go bad or the map got slow.
so we had to adapt the map because
Here's
this one
the-
was blurry, so.
Here's called Lvov, Lwow. This was the capital of Galicia. Galicia was that's where I lived. And not far from there was another place called Krakow. Right here.
This, you're right, it's blurry.
Krakow had a big concert hall. Go to the center.
You can, yeah. Can you all see it?
Yeah.
I can't see it this close, but you can see
To
it.
Krakow. Here's Plashov. Plashov was something you will know where the Schindler List came out. There, the guy used to have a balcony, the head of the camp, and every time he felt, he went on his balcony and shot the people, everybody inside. Then I went from there to Munich. I went to Dachau. And Dachau, I was a witness to the first commander who was of the camp. And Tony got the sentence is 7 years. After 7 years, somebody else put him on trial. And I was there, I was subpoenaed to go to Germany and appear to him. And they asked me what language you want to testify. I said English. They supplied an interpreter. I had my saying. And they had a lawyer too. After I said my law, he said, the judge says, how come you didn't speak German? He said, he's a man who speaks fluent German, and yet he chose English. Your Honor, with all due respect, freedom of speech.
In any language. In any language, right?
In
Freedom of
any
speech,
language.
In any language.
No, this was English.
Yeah. Right, but this was English. That's right. Are you ready to take some questions? Will this be a good time?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
You have the time?
All right, let's give us maybe a few more minutes, and then we'll take some questions.
Yeah, okay. It came in that after I didn't wait what kind of a sentence. I understand he got life sentence. But this was not all. I wasn't satisfied. Hey, the man was responsible for so many deaths. Then he gets only 7 years. Nevertheless, after I told him freedom of speech, he didn't say another word, and I went home. From there, I went to Israel. I met some family, and then I was decided to be silenced. I didn't want to talk about it. For 26 years, my kids asked me to speak to my group, speak to my temple, but I always didn't say anything. Finally, one time my wife passed away. She was only 48 years old. She and her daughter went to different colleges. My wife went as a CPA. She was one of the 5 highest scorers in the state of New Jersey. And my daughter became a teacher, taking care of the kids, special ed, and they were very satisfied. And being silenced didn't suit my wife. Finally, I met another lady, we got married, and we went to visit our daughter in Florida, and we made a little detour, and we stopped over in Greensboro. In Greensboro, we found some people, and then introduced me, maybe you will stay here. So we looked for the house, but it wasn't our lighting. He went to work, but then we returned back, and we bought a house in High Point. The rabbi found out there's Holocaust survivor moved in. So he summons me to his office. He say, Hank, did you ever heard of March of the Living? Never did. Every April, we go in a March of the Living. We're going first to Poland, and then we go to Israel. Usually we're accompanied by a Holocaust survivor. That time we had 3 Holocaust survivors, including me. On the 6th of April, I spoke as I lit one of the 6 candles. In the meantime, my daughter opened every door to find out whether she could find anything about my family, to know where. Finally, she contacted my daughter, and he asked her, there's your father named so-and-so? They had a brother so-and-so? If yes, answer. If not, just forget about it. Well, she found out, yes, this is my father's brother. So I got back on a plane because I was told my brother's wife moved to Israel. And I went back to Israel, met my family. He had 2 sons. They were both in the army. And I found out I had a family. So I was trying to make the trip for 12 years, going to Poland and to Israel. I went one time, his wife mentioning that he died in Minsk. Minsk is Slovakia, not Russia. So he was died and buried there. So she made the arrangement somebody will meet me in Minsk and take me to the cemetery, which I did, he did. And he took me there and I saw his grave. I was able to put some flowers on and say a prayer. My heart got much feeling better. At least I saw the grave of my brother. I went back home and we were in constant contact, and I made regular visits to Poland and Israel, and it took 12 years. You got any questions at the front?
Now we can ask questions.
Yes.
So we have 2 microphones, and 2 people with microphones. And if you have a question, if you would stand up, introduce yourself, and clearly ask your question. So do we have? But there's. First one's always the aha. You have a question, right? And we have a center aisle, so we're.
Hello there. My name's Danny Murphy. I'm a friend of Hank's. I understand he has a song that he sings both in Yiddish and in English, and it's very precious to him. I was wondering if you could sing it tonight.
Would you sing? He said you have a song that you like to sing in English and in Yiddish, and he would like to hear it tonight. This is your friend.
Yes.
You reserved the seat for.
Well, I'd rather answer first the question before I sing. Okay? Do you have any questions?
Okay, so hold off on the song and answer a question first. So hold that. So, yes, we have a. Oh, yes.
Hi, my name's Alexa. I'm a student at Elon, and I was just wondering what. Oh, first, thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate that.
I made that pledge. When somebody will call on me, I will always answer. And for the last 12 years, I'm doing so.
Thank you. So what was the most impactful part of the March of the Living for you personally?
Let the grown-up kids to know what it's all about, what the guys like myself went through in order to reach that plateau and able to talk about it.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Question, and then right here. Go ahead. And then
what does Israel mean to you?
And this is Noah.
What does Israel
what
mean
does
to
Israel
you?
mean to you?
To me, knowing they have a country. I'm a Jew, and Jews have a country now. Tell me, where shall I go? There is no place I can see. Where to go? Where to go? To that precious promised land. To the left, to the right, is the same in every land. There is nowhere to go, and it's me who should know. Won't you please understand? We are angels again, back and enter mir. We are angels again. Es ist verschlossen, jede Tür. Sei auf links, sei auf rechts. Oder so in jedem Land. Als wir einselig gehen, heißt bei mir bleiben stehen. Hast gewähnt, oh, in Nazareth. Tell me, where shall I go? There is no place I can see. Where to go? Where to go? To that precious promised land. To the left, to the right, is the same in every land. There is nowhere to go, and it's me who should know. Won't you please understand? Now I know where to go, where my folks proudly stands. Where to go, where to go, to that precious promised land. No more left, no more right, it's the same in every land. There is nowhere to go, and it's me who should know. Won't you please understand? No more left, no more right. Lift your head and see the light. For your trust I am free. No more wandering for me.
Thank you. Thank you for the prom. I think there was another hand raised. Ending on that note would be beautiful, but there was a promise made to a question. So,
Hi. I was wondering why it's important for you to share your story and what you want us to learn when we hear it.
I tell you an incident. I spoken, I guess, to the 8th grader in Winston-Salem. And as usual, I opened the floor to the questions and answers. However, the kids are too bashful. They don't want to come. But once I go on a meet at their level, got 100 questions. And one of the questions was, would you ever forgive them? This was the question. Never asked the question before, but I felt he deserves an answer. Forgive them? I don't know. But I will never forget. And to this day, I'm keeping my promise. As long as my feet will carry and my life is alive, I will answer that call.
thank you. And for Hank's book, which was written by his daughter, in phone call consultation, right? You said it was all phone calls with Hank. His book is available right outside and also at our Elon Barnes & Noble. And it's everything that Hank said here, and his story is one that needs to live on. And as you said, never forget. Forgiving is one thing, and forgetting is something we never can do. And I just want to say thank you so much to you, Hank, for being here with us. And this is from all the people who sponsored tonight, bringing you to this. And this is a contribution, a gift to the March of the Living, the Temple Manual. So,
Thank you.